Hi, everybody. Welcome back to A Coach's Handbook. It's been a minute, about 4.5 months since we've talked to you guys. Coach Dan will be joining me in just a moment, but I wanted to kind of start off by saying that we've heard a lot of feedback from you, from some of you, about wanting to hear these more regularly. We got caught up with summer and fall leagues, and it's been a really busy time for us, but we're going to change up a bit, and we're going to start doing the podcast virtually. That way we can start producing these more regularly. Hopefully every week, probably every other week. But with that said, we do have content for this week and next week. We can come up with a lot of other content. There's a lot of stuff that we want to talk about, but we also want to know what you want. So if you want to comment below if you're watching via YouTube, and just tell us what you would like to see. Maybe it's something about going into college, preparing for that, or maybe it's for just random coaching questions because you're having issues with your U9 team, or even if it's just want to talk about club soccer. Give us some hints of what you would like to see. I'm also going to be reviving our Facebook page, which is A Coach's Handbook on Facebook. So please, you can feel free to message me via that way too. I hope you get back into this, and we enjoy doing it, so we want to keep going with it. And with that said, welcome to A Coach's Handbook. Welcome back, everybody. I am joined again with Coach Dan. Coach Dan and I have been really busy over the last 4 months, so we apologize for not being around as much, but we're making some plans to do this more often. Coach Dan, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Matt. How are you?
Good, very good. We last spoke right before summer started, pretty much. And we kind of set the stage for what was going to be happening over the next 4 or 5 months. And guess what? Boom, it's gone.
We're here.
We are here. So let's get started by, kind of doing a recap of and a catch up today about everything that's kind of gone on in our lives. And I kind of spent more time with you than I ever have, because usually I'm off coaching doing other things, but I was able to actually enjoy a lot of the whole last 4 months with you versus being off on my own little world. So let's start with Summer League, because that was the first thing that happened. Tell us about, you had a couple teams, and tell us what the Summer League involves and what it means to be in that league, and then what kind of happened again.
Yeah, so formerly known as Super Y, the league was changed to USL Youth, and it's something that our club, DBSS, has been participating in for many years now. This summer we had 4 teams total, U19 boys and girls, U13 girls, and U15 girls. And the main reason behind participation in that league is just simply to keep our kids on the ball. It's kind of a regional event where we're playing teams from sort of Chicago, Cleveland, Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan, of course. And we do a lot of our practices before the games start, sort of the tail end of June. And then games are typically 8 games throughout July on the weekends. And each team that we entered this year, they're on their own little pathway. U13 girls, I think this was their 3rd full season on the big field, because they played at U12 up at U13. And so coming out of the USL youth season, they would have played a full year on the big field. And that benefited them this fall they had a good season. I think we went 500 in the league, in the Premier League. And then you're looking at the older boys and girls U19 teams this past summer. they simply played just to get more minutes, perhaps to get some college exposure from college coaches. And, the boys used that going into their college season. Some of them represented universities and colleges. Some of them actually came to Cleary. So that was good preparation for them. And then the girls were pre-fall season. And so that was a really nice stepping stone for them to go into their full season. I think the highlight of the summer was our U15 girls team, our 2011s, Annie's team, going undefeated in their 8 games against some strong opposition. And they actually earned their right to play in the USL Championships, the USL Finals in December in Tampa. So I know you and I are very excited about that. Coming in a year or two ago, this team had not won a game at that level, at the USL youth level. We competed, but we didn't see the success. And so U15 is a time where, the curriculum that we adopt, the Mullenstein method, and our club, believes that winning matters. We had to have done everything right up until that stage for these U15 girls in order for them to see that success now. And so that was a massive reward for the girls, the families, the coaching staff, and the club to be able to make that happen. So yeah, we're very excited, and I know you and I are gearing up now to get some warm weather in about 3 or 4 weeks' time.
Almost there. I want to reiterate what you're talking about. I hear we talk about winning all the time, winning, even at the U9, U10 age. And it's talked about so much how families leave because we lose, and it's not that we look to lose in our club. It's that we focus on the development at the younger ages. So this was actually our fourth year playing at USLY with Annie's team, with the 2011s. And it should be noted that the first 2 years, it's not just losing. We were losing by 10, 15 points. The teams that we play are so high level. And for us I think we didn't win our first game until last season, until 2024. And that was one game that we won out of 8. But the margins were a lot smaller. And I think that families want that instant gratification for their kids, but in retrospect, we see development and we see growth, and that's what's important. And then we get to that U15 age, and then all of a sudden, okay, now it's time to kick our heels. And I think as a spectator, which I was this summer, it was so fun to see the level of our girls against especially the 2 Chicago teams, which are very high level. They're ranked very high in the country. And the one that's ranked super high in the country, we took them apart that first game, 7-1, I think. And it's not just about scoring, it's about ball movement. It's about 1v1. Mullenstein method very much pushes that. And I think that pushing it at the younger ages really helped us now that we're on the big field and you have to go 1v1, because this team really bought into staying together. And most of them have been together 3 to 6, 7 years. And I think that's helped us with Super Wise. So seeing that, it wasn't just, yay, we won. It was, look at where we are. That was the best part as a parent this summer.
Yeah. So. Yeah. We really improved a lot, and we were fortunate enough to add a couple of girls. I think people saw what this team was doing, and they had the confidence, and the parents trusted that their daughter could come in and be a strong part of the team. And they've got a great bond going, and hopefully we're going to go down to Florida and compete and not just make up the numbers. So we're excited to see what we can do.
Absolutely. Uh, then we headed into the fall. Sticking with club, we're gonna get to Cleary in a minute, but I really want to talk about your fall because you have four teams that you coach. U13 boys, U13 girls, U15 girls, and U17 girls. Um, yes, we do have more boys in our club, but the girls always seem to be on the pathway with you. Um, let's start with the boys because I think out of all of the teams that you have, this team is kind of special. They remind me more of our 2011 girls than the other teams. And
Yeah,
the reasoning is that we had a lot of struggles like that at the U13 age.
yeah,
And one of the things that I've been telling parents is you just need to stick together because it will come
right.
across. But tell us about the U13s this fall.
Yeah, it was results wise, having gone from winning our local B division at the West Mesa level, we made the decision to take them up to Premier. It was just a classic level of Premier. And yeah, we faced some really tough competition. The boys, they didn't win a game. They lost most games. I think we came away with one or two ties, and it was tough for them. I think it was more tough for the parents to see, even though we kind of briefed them that this would and could be the case. But I think the boys, they don't seem too upset about it, which is good because, again, the emphasis from my end, having made this step, was we need to show that we can compete. We need to see what levels are out there. And then we need to strive to kind of arrive at those levels. And so we were able to play soccer a little bit and represent sort of our club way to play. We missed a lot of chances. We created a lot of chances, but we couldn't convert that into goals. And then, we would stick in games for the first half, and then for whatever reason, the team would sort of fall away in the second half, and good teams would sort of put us away. So it was rough. The guys never, lost their level of interest or their love for it. They continuously showed up at practice, and I think that was highlighted by the last practice of this fall where we brought the parents in. We do a parents v kids game. I think a lot of our teams do that at the end of the season, and just to see the energy and the smiles on faces and the friendly banter between the parents and the kids, that was a really nice way to end the fall. And it's given ourselves a benchmark going into the spring. Now the kids and families know that they need to push a lot this winter. So we have winter training programs for the club and for actually all players in the area, regardless of what club they play for. So they'll play futsal, they'll do indoor leagues, they'll do winter training as a team, which is important. And I anticipate us having a much better spring season now that we've kind of fallen into the level that we've fallen into. So the only way is up for this team, so long as they stick together. Your words are true. It's very much delayed gratification. This team was kind of a ragtag bunch of players that fell into our lap. We were able to get a roster of 16 to 18, and they were very diverse in ability. And we're closing that gap through the work that we're putting into them, through the work that they're doing on, away from the field on their own. They're only going to keep improving.
I've yeah, coaching for you, you knew that it was kind of in my contract that I didn't work with boys. I prefer to coach girls by all
Yeah,
means, but
yeah,
I have had the pleasure of working with those boys a handful of times. And out of all the boys that I've coached, they are more fun.
yeah,
They were a good group of boys, and I've enjoyed getting to watch them and getting to know some of the parents this year
yeah.
because being in charge of media, I've gotten to hang out with them, and
Right.
like it's been a lot of fun. And I truly hope that they listen to me and they take my advice and stick together because again, our girls, our 2011s in U13 were getting beat up. And,
Right.
they had their ups and downs, they had their losing seasons. And, it's delayed. It's not about the result as much as the journey. And, so I look forward to watching them. I'm gonna have to make a few games, even though I won't be quite as around in the spring.
Right.
I want to go to those, but yeah.
Sure. Yeah, they're a goofy bunch, and I think I maintain the fact that you sort of U12, U13 for me is the trickiest age group as far as the boys are concerned, and the girls at that age seem to have matured. You want to talk about puberty? I think the boys are a little later to the game naturally, and they just goof around, and so they require a lot of tough love. Whereas the girls kind of soak it up, and they're like sponges at that age. They want to impress. They can take things on board a lot quicker. So I think the boys have got it ahead of them. They are starting to mature. They're starting to grow into their bodies. I think a big thing that perhaps we as coaches or even parents don't see is the rise and the fall in the players' form throughout a season, especially around the ages of puberty. And when kids are going through a growth spurt, their bodies aren't quite catching up. They're very injury prone, tight muscles, and that can then lead to a dip in form. And that's why players perhaps aren't performing as to their coaches or their parents' expectations. And so there is a lot of patience that's required. I said this spring, going into the next year, we should see a lot of turnaround as far as that boys team is concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. So you also have a U13 girls team. Tell us just kind of an update on them. I know most of those girls started with me 4 or 5 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yes, yeah. And I think we're seeing the benefit of that. That was a team that was, compared to the boys, this team arrived a lot earlier in the process. They are competing at a higher Premier level, I think one league below the Great Lakes Premier League, which is the pinnacle of Premier soccer. And we finished middle of the table. We had a couple of really good results. We had a couple of tricky games, but I think that was a benefit of them playing through, essentially 24 games, 3 mini seasons on the 11v11 field at U12. The way that they play soccer is up there with the way that the U15s play at times. Again, we seem to be the club that doesn't bring in the taller, the quicker, faster, stronger athletes. So again, a lot of patience is required, and once those girls have leveled out with the height and the strength and the speed of some of these other teams, we're gonna see the benefit of that later on in the next sort of 1 to 3 years, because they do move the ball around really, really well. So yeah, completely different pathway to the boys. But we're using the same methods, the same principles, the same system of play. And those teams actually train together as well. So it's been fun to see the back and forth. But between the two teams, there was a point in time a year, 18 months ago, where the girls would scrimmage the boys and they would beat them. But now the boys are sort of, they're growing. It's kind of flipped on its head. And it's a really good, friendly, competitive environment.
So again, I started with almost all of the girls in the club, I think at this point have had me at some
Mm-hmm.
point. And um, one of the things I regret after coaching Annie's team when when the 2011s were U8, U9, U10, Coach Allen and I actually would work together with the
Yeah.
boys. And I think that made the girls stronger at that
Right.
age, um, because they have a certain toughness that you don't see at the older girls or the younger girls. And even the littles, the U10s this year, they just didn't have that toughness that the 2011s. And I have seen that change a bit with your 2013s, since they've been playing with the boys. Their toughness. I mean, you had girls bite through their lips this year
Yeah.
and go back on the field. You've had a
Yeah.
girl break her arm and want to go back on the field. Like
Yeah.
their toughness level has skyrocketed this year, and I've
For
that's been
sure.
kind of fun to watch.
For sure. I know that's obviously a credit to everyone that's been involved, the parents as well. And I know Coach Greg's a big contributing factor of that. Greg pushes them, and it's great to coach with Greg because we can bounce off of each other. I'm usually the bad cop, but when Greg's pumped and he's motivating, it's great for me to sit back and just kind of let him do his thing because the girls really take to him as well. So it's been good kind of going back and forth. But yeah, they don't shy away from a challenge, and what they lack in height, they certainly make up for in tenacity on that team.
Absolutely. We're going to skip the 2011s for a minute, and we're going to go to your 2009s.
Yeah,
The 2009 girls have been on a really long journey.
yeah,
Some of them, 8 years, 9 years. Um,
yeah.
the beginning of the season didn't start too great, but go through that season, go through where their path is right now.
Yeah, so Super Y, I'm not sure they won many games, maybe one or two. And, it was a tough season for them. Going into the fall, we won our first state cup game, and I'm starting to think, wow, this team, has got what it takes to be able to progress. And then we had two lousy performances to close out state cup. And so, that was all before league play. Um, and then we entered league, and it was a decent level. I think a couple of the state cup teams were of a higher level, so that kind of prepared us, and we actually ended up going on to win the Premier League, and so that team has an opportunity to compete in the Great Lakes Premier League next year. And like you said, I think two or three of those girls have been with the club since the academy ages. Um, and I think more importantly, a handful of the girls actually were on the B team in the early years. And so I think there was a point where I coached both the A and the B team, and it was been great. We kind of used B teams to allow the kids to play at their level, play a lot more minutes than what they would on the A team, with the goal being at some point in time in their youth career, they will make that progression and that promotion up to the A team. And so, whether that's by merit or players leaving the A team, which was the case, with our 2009s, that was the flagship team when they were U12. I think we got to the State Cup final. We were knocking on the door of the National League, but we narrowly missed out. And so for this team to come back with a few new players, with some of the experienced players and families that have been a part of this, for them to win that league was a really nice touch. It was a nice moment up in Brockford to be able to do that. And those girls now, in a blink of an eye, have gone from being U12s to next year being U18, and some of them hopefully going on to play college. So that's gone really quickly. That team was a large part of my life's work, if you like. It was a lot of education and experience for me to look back and learn from, take the goods, and think about what I could have done differently. And I think that the 2011s and other teams have benefited from that, me having that experience. So yeah, it's all good in the name of learning.
I you said that the younger teams are benefit because of you learning too, but the the what you instill in these kids, like throughout the whole club, preparing them for life versus just, soccer, really shows with that 2009 team. I know that Annie, Cami, Kenzie has played with a lot of those girls, played up with
Yeah,
those girls, and the biggest thing that I take away as a parent isn't, oh, it was fun for Annie to play up. It was those girls like embraced the youngers, and they
yeah,
took them under their wing, and they really treated them like a little sister.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that a lot of that is from you. I mean, it's you pushing that, and you do that with the 2011, saying when, hey, the 13s are coming up, I want you to take care of them, and it's a testimony to you and how you the morals that you put into these kids. So um, that again, I've gotten to coach some of those 2009s. I love joking around with them, especially now that I'm on the sidelines because I can pick on them when they're without having to coach them, and
Yeah.
that's been fun too. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've got to continue the development pathway. I think that's the benefit of us. Our club isn't a huge club, and so we've got a handful of U13s now, 2013s that have guest played on the 2011 team. And for their development, that's huge. We actually have one of the girls coming to be on the roster for the USL finals. Lila, who's constantly on the ball. She's constantly doing speed and agility. She has wonderful parental support. And, um, that's essentially an underdog story. Lila was itty bitty in the academy ages. She could barely kick the ball. And all of a sudden she can drive it from the top of the box into the back of the net. And you talk about physicality, she'll match up with somebody twice her size, and her
which
goal
is
will be
most
to
people. Most
right,
people are
most
twice her
people,
size.
yeah, yeah. And one of her goals might actually be to get a yellow card. But I mean, that's a tough girl right there, and a dedicated girl. And I know she and others on that team will go far. And so for me, it's important to reward that hard work. It kind of shows the kids the next level. Whether they sink or swim in that moment, they are going to be stronger for that experience, and just being around that environment this winter in Florida. And so, yeah, very, very excited.
Um, you're talking about giving them the chance. We've been blessed that you've allowed Annie to do it, and she got to play with the U19s this summer. And one of her biggest fears about going into high school was, oh my God, they're all going to be better than me because they're older. And I'm like,
Yeah,
wait, that age doesn't dictate, skill.
right.
And I think you putting Annie and Kenzie in that awkward environment of going against girls that some of them were in college,
Yeah,
um, really helped her confidence. Her
yeah,
confidence, she was like, oh, I can score on a D2 level goalie,
yeah,
and she did.
yeah,
And I think that you recognizing the girls, the Kenzies, the Laylas, the Camies, the Annies, the Peytons, and giving them that opportunity to push themselves really helps, really helps.
yeah.
All right. Well, before we get into college, let's I'm not going to do too much talking because of it's my kid on the team, but um let's talk about the 2011s a little bit. Tell us about their fall.
Yeah. So they had a really good season. State Cup. We ended up progressing out of our bracket um, for the first time in their journey. And so we ended up playing in the semi-finals against a really good Traverse City team. We ended up beating them. We got a couple of early goals and then defended our lives for our lives. And that ended up with us playing in the State Cup final against an AYSO United team out of Grand Rapids with Coach Mercer, who does an incredible job with his clubs and teams. And unfortunately, that was a bridge too far for us. I believed we really showcased our ability to move the ball and our style of play. But the ASO United team was physical, it was strong, it was resilient, and they ended up beating us on a penalty shootout. Um, and so we went a goal behind, and then Annie leveled the game for us. I think we hit the post a few minutes before the end of regulation, and then we had to have two periods of overtime. And I've never seen a penalty shootout at the youth level be so consistent. I think out of the 10 PKs, 9 of them ended up in the back of the net in the corner of the goal. And unfortunately for us, one of ours was placed really, really well, but it was a tremendous save from a very good goalkeeper. And so
She was
that
phenomenal.
was, yeah, she was good. So that was tough. And, upon the closing of that game, we kind of immediately turned our sights towards the league. I think at that point in time, we were sitting top of the bracket, 4 or 5-0, with 2 or 3 games left, knowing that if we win all of those games, we would then break out of the Great Lakes Premier League into the National League. And so that was the case. Um, we ended up playing West Michigan Galaxy, who are a very, very good team. I think there's a case to say maybe we were underdogs in that game, but we came out bright and we got a goal. We won 1-0, and upon the final whistle, we knew that we were champions of that Great Lakes Premier League. And I made a post to bigger clubs. It's not really a huge deal because a lot of these clubs have the pathway into these bigger leagues, even though some of them are what we call alphabet soup. I don't necessarily agree with all the leagues that have been created just to fund revenue. But the proud thing from my end is the fact that we've done this organically. We've never once applied to go to a big league. And the girls have rose from their premier brackets all the way up, and to be able to have done that organically is great for the girls, great for the families to see, and it's a proof that what we do here at this club is top notch, and it helps players grow and it helps players achieve in the younger ages.
You're downplaying that last game. Like we are a play out of the back team, and we are a very good defensive team. But I because I've coached for so long, I knew the coach of the Galaxy. We had talked before, and I told him at the end of the game, I said, "Your girls played phenomenal." I go, "I don't think we've ever played that scrappy before the last 15 minutes of the game when you had eight defenders. You basically played five defenders,
Yeah,
three sixes. You put Annie on
yeah,
defense and or in
yeah.
midfield, and you had one forward. Like for us parents, that was the most stressful 15-20 minutes
Right.
we've ever had.
Yeah, yeah. They definitely derailed us a little bit. I don't know whether the girls were nervous, but they definitely stopped us from playing our game, and that was the toughest game of the season, and it was a great way to end, just to show what we're capable of against stronger opposition. And I think the State Cup final, it was a similar team, but I do feel like we were able to control the ball a lot more. Um,
We
and
also were
so,
missing players from injury because
yeah,
of
yeah,
during the game. So
yeah. But yeah, it was a great season overall, and we talk about winning. I know that's going to help the girls stay together. um, because obviously the higher the level that these kids are playing, perhaps the better opportunity that we'll have to play college soccer. And so, yeah, I'm really delighted for the girls and the families on that team for all the hard work and support and dedication they've all put into getting the girls into practice and games, and for believing in our system.
excellent.
Stay tuned for part 2 of this episode, where we will recap Dan's Cleary University fall season. Thanks for listening.